We all love a good, natural home remedy passed down through generations. But what was safe for you at age 30 can be incredibly dangerous after 65, interacting with health conditions or thinning skin in ways most people never see coming. 5 common home remedies, still sitting in kitchen cabinets and medicine drawers across this country right now, are the exact ones medical professionals warn seniors to stop using immediately. One of them is probably in your house tonight. We're going to count down from 5 to 1, and the one waiting at number 1 is the one most people have never even heard described as dangerous, because it doesn't sting, it doesn't burn on contact, and it can take years to show up. Stay through to the end for that one. One quick favor before we start, and it takes about 10 seconds. This channel exists because people like you decide it's worth passing along. If this is useful, hitting subscribe and sharing it with one person helps us reach 100,000 people who need to hear this exact information, and that's the only ask in this entire video. Now, number 5. Number 5 lives in almost every American kitchen, and it has nothing to do with anything exotic or hard to find. It's the one remedy people reach for during a flight, a road trip, a holiday dinner that didn't sit right. Baking soda, stirred into water, has been the go-to fix for heartburn and acid reflux for generations. The kind of thing a grandmother kept right next to the flour and never thought twice about. 1 teaspoon dissolved in a glass of water and swallowed down. A kitchen staple doing a medicine's job, no trip to the pharmacy required. The problem is what that teaspoon actually contains. A single teaspoon of baking soda carries roughly 1,200 milligrams of sodium, more than half of what's generally recommended for an entire day, delivered all at once in liquid form, which the body absorbs fast, much faster than that same sodium would hit the bloodstream if it came from food eaten slowly over a meal. For someone managing blood pressure, heart failure, or kidney disease, 3 conditions that become dramatically more common after 60, that sudden sodium load can raise blood pressure, worsen fluid retention, and put strain on a heart or kidneys already working harder than they used to, just to keep up. The fix that calms the stomach in 20 minutes can be quietly working against the cardiovascular system for hours afterward, long after the burning sensation is forgotten. A safer route for occasional heartburn is one of the calcium-based antacids made for repeated use, the kind that don't carry that sodium punch, but the better long-term move is asking a doctor why the reflux is happening in the first place, since frequent heartburn after 60 can sometimes point to something worth investigating rather than just masking. Here's something worth sitting with for a second. Most people think of heartburn as a stomach problem and treat it like one, reaching for whatever's fastest. But after 60, the question isn't just what stops the burning, it's what does this fix cost somewhere else in the body? That single shift in thinking is the difference between a remedy that helps and one that quietly trades one problem for a bigger one. And it's not just heartburn. After 60, the kidneys filter blood less efficiently than they did at 30, blood vessel walls stiffen and become less forgiving of sudden changes, and skin loses roughly 1/3 of its thickness along with the collagen that once let it shrug off minor irritants. That means the exact same substance, in the exact same amount, can pass through a younger body without incident and cause real damage in an older one. Keep that in mind, because it's about to show up again with the very next item. Number 4 is sitting in a lot of pantries labeled as a cure-all, and it's the one people are most likely to use 2 different ways, on the skin and in a glass. Apple cider vinegar, undiluted, either swallowed straight or dabbed onto the skin for everything from age spots to toenail fungus. The acid in vinegar doesn't know the difference between a stubborn skin spot and the delicate lining of an esophagus or the enamel coating a tooth. Dentists have documented that drinking it straight wears down enamel over time, increasing sensitivity and the risk of cavities, and that same acidity has been linked to actual chemical burns to the throat when it's swallowed undiluted or in large amounts, along with cases of esophageal ulceration. Applied directly to skin, it can cause burns and permanent discoloration, especially on skin that's already thinner and slower to repair itself than it was decades ago. There's an added wrinkle for this age group specifically. Regular heavy use has also been associated with dropping potassium levels in the blood, and low potassium is something cardiologists already watch closely in anyone on blood pressure medication or certain heart medications, because it can affect heart rhythm. So this isn't only a question of a burned throat or worn down teeth. It's a remedy that can quietly shift blood chemistry in a way that matters more after 60 than it ever did at 30. None of this means vinegar is dangerous sitting in a salad dressing. It means the version of using it that feels like more must be better. Straight from the bottle, no dilution, is exactly the version that causes harm. If a person wants to keep using it, heavily diluting it in water, and drinking through a straw to limit contact with teeth is the safer middle ground. and skin application should be left alone entirely after 60, unless a doctor has specifically recommended it. There's a particular kind of confusion that comes with remedies like this. They worked for 40 years. A mother used it. A grandmother swore by it. And nothing in that history prepares a person for the day it turns on them, quietly, without warning, because the body underneath it has changed even though the remedy never did. People don't connect the dots. They blame age, or stress, or just one of those things, when the real cause was sitting in the cabinet the whole time. Think about how these habits actually get formed in the first place. Nobody sits down at 65 and decides to start using a brand new remedy. These are habits inherited decades earlier, from a mother standing at a stove, from a generation that didn't have a pharmacy on every corner, and made do with what was already in the kitchen. By the time a person reaches retirement age, these remedies aren't really choices anymore. A scrape happens, and the hand reaches for the bottle before the brain even finishes registering the cut. The trouble is, reflexes don't update themselves. The body keeps changing every single year after 60, but the reflex stays frozen exactly where it was formed, sometimes 50 or 60 years earlier. And here's number 3, which is the clearest example of exactly that. Number 3 is the one that sounds like it should work, because it's rooted in something real. Garlic and onions genuinely do have natural antimicrobial properties, which is exactly why people have been crushing them onto cuts, sores, and infected-looking skin for generations, especially for joint pain or slow-healing wounds. The logic isn't crazy. Garlic really does fight certain bacteria in a lab setting, and that's likely where this tradition got its start generations ago, before antibiotics existed, and people worked with whatever was growing in the garden. But raw garlic, once it's crushed or cut, releases a compound that is chemically aggressive enough to break down skin cells on contact. The same compound responsible for that sharp, eye-watering smell is also capable of triggering a genuine chemical burn when it sits against skin for any length of time. Medical case reports describe this happening specifically in older adults. A woman in her 60s applied a garlic paste to her knee overnight for arthritis pain she'd been managing for years, covered it with cloth the way her family always had, and woke up to a painful ulcerated chemical burn instead of relief. The same has been documented with onion poultices left under bandages overnight, and even with garlic pressed against the cheek for a toothache, causing burns to the face. The longer the contact, and the thinner and more fragile the skin, the worse the burn, which makes this exactly the kind of remedy that goes from harmless folk tradition to emergency room visit, specifically because of how skin changes after 60. A 30-year-old's skin might tolerate brief contact with barely a mark. Skin that's lost a third of its thickness has far less buffer before that same exposure turns into broken, blistered tissue. If there's a genuine interest in garlic's antimicrobial properties, garlic oil capsules processed to remove the harsh compound are the safer route. Raw garlic or onion paste left against skin overnight is not, no matter how many generations swore by it. We're past the halfway mark now, and there's a second layer to all of this that almost nobody talks about. Many people in this age group are also managing 2, 3, sometimes 5 prescription medications at once, for blood pressure, for cholesterol, for thyroid function, for blood thinning. A home remedy that seemed completely separate from real medicine can quietly interact with one of those prescriptions or undo a careful balance a doctor spent months getting right. A remedy doesn't have to be dramatic to cause harm. It just has to be the one variable nobody accounted for. And that's exactly the territory we're walking into with the next one, the one that catches people off guard the most, because it's the opposite of what almost every household was taught growing up. Number 2 is hydrogen peroxide and rubbing alcohol, the 2 bottles sitting in nearly every American medicine cabinet for exactly this purpose. Pour it on a cut, watch it fizz. Assume that fizzing means it's working. For decades, that fizz was treated as proof the wound was being disinfected, and there's a reason that belief runs so deep. Anyone who grew up in this country in the 50s, 60s, or 70s almost certainly remembers a parent doing exactly this after a scraped knee or a kitchen cut, brown bottle in hand, the sting treated as part of the deal, the idea being if it stings, it's working. What actually happens is different and more complicated than anyone realized at the time. Hydrogen peroxide doesn't distinguish between bacteria and the body's own healing cells. It's a strong oxidizer that destroys fibroblasts, the specific cells responsible for laying down new tissue and rebuilding the wound from the inside out, and it slows the formation of new blood vessels the area needs in order to close properly. Rubbing alcohol does something similar through a different mechanism, breaking down proteins in cells indiscriminately, healthy tissue and bacteria alike, with no ability to tell the difference. For a 25-year-old with fast-healing skin and strong circulation, This damage might go unnoticed, repaired before it ever becomes a problem. For someone over 60, especially with diabetes, poor circulation, or skin that already takes longer to regenerate than it used to, repeatedly pouring either of these onto a wound, day after day at every dressing change, can be the difference between a scrape that closes in a week and one that lingers, gets irritated, and becomes a genuine medical concern requiring a wound care specialist. The safer approach medical professionals now recommend is gentle rinsing with clean water or saline, followed by a thin layer of petroleum jelly, and a clean bandage, no fizzing required, and nothing standing in the way of the body's own repair work doing what it's already trying to do. View changes if this swap actually gets made. Most people who switch away from peroxide and alcohol on minor cuts notice the wound looks less red and irritated within about 3 days. And a scrape that might have lingered for 2 weeks under the old method often closes within 7 to 10 days instead, not a guarantee, but a noticeably different pattern once the body's healing cells aren't being knocked back every time the bandage comes off. And that brings us to number 1. The remedy that doesn't sting, doesn't burn, and gives almost no warning at all, which is exactly why it's the most dangerous one on this list. Colloidal silver, taken as drops or a liquid supplement marketed as a natural immune booster, something to ward off colds, infections, even more serious illness. There's no sharp pain, no immediate sign anything is wrong, which is precisely what makes it different from every other item on this list. Silver has no biological function in the human body, and isn't processed or eliminated the way other minerals are. Instead, it accumulates slowly in skin tissue, and over months or years of regular use, it can permanently turn the skin a bluish-gray color, a condition called argyria that does not fade once it sets in. Documented cases describe people in their 70s, after years of using colloidal silver as a daily wellness habit, developing this slate-gray discoloration across their face and hands, irreversible, with no treatment that reliably brings the original skin tone back, not depigmenting creams, not chelation, nothing that consistently reverses it once it's there. Beyond the visible change, colloidal silver can interfere with how the body absorbs certain prescription medications, including common thyroid medication and some antibiotics, a serious concern for an age group where the average person is managing several prescriptions at once. There's also evidence linking heavier use to kidney, liver, and nervous system problems, on top of the cosmetic damage that gets all the attention. And here's the detail that makes this one especially worth knowing. Major health research institutions have specifically noted there is no credible evidence that colloidal silver does what it's marketed to do in the first place. The supposed benefit isn't well supported, but the permanent discoloration absolutely is. There is no level of natural that changes what this substance does once it accumulates. If immune support is the actual goal, that conversation belongs with a doctor, not a dropper bottle. If you've made it this far, here's the moment to actually use what you just learned. Walk through your own bathroom cabinet and kitchen pantry in the next hour, before this gets put off and forgotten, and just look. Not necessarily throw anything away yet, just see what's actually sitting in there. If any of these 5 are present, knowing that now is worth more than not knowing it was there at all. Most of these items aren't going anywhere overnight, and that's fine. The goal today isn't a dramatic purge of the medicine cabinet. It's simply knowing, for the first time, exactly what's in there and why it deserves a second look. And here's one more thing worth doing today. Think about who in your life still swears by one of these. A spouse who still reaches for hydrogen peroxide on every scrape. A sibling who's been taking colloidal silver drops for years. An adult child who picked up the same habits watching you do them growing up. Send this to that one specific person. Not everyone, just them. They're the one this actually applies to. Here's a real 30-day challenge, starting with something that takes 5 minutes tonight. Open the cabinet, pull out anything from this list, and replace just one of these habits with the safer alternative mentioned for it. Diluted vinegar instead of straight, saline instead of peroxide, a conversation with a doctor instead of a dropper bottle. Stick with that single swap for 30 days, and don't worry about tackling all 5 at once. One habit, replaced consistently, is worth more than 5 good intentions that don't stick. By the end of that month, many people notice fewer skin irritations, fewer unexplained flare-ups, and one less thing in the house that could quietly be working against them instead of for them. It's a small change. It's also the kind of change that, 30 days from now, a person can actually feel the difference of. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. Always speak with your physician or qualified healthcare provider before making any changes to your diet, hydration, or daily routine, especially if you have an existing medical condition or are currently taking medication.